the ever-fleeting present moment. Let's switch your perspective a little here and realize that the moment, the past, and the future all happen on a simultaneous timeline right now. Allow me to explain. I'm your host, Jacob Smith, and this is Observant Attention. Isn't it funny how conditioned we are? And how ironic that our conditioning comes from our own thoughts, which just compound on each other? Now, I believe there were some good takeaways from the last episode, but these three really stood out for me, so I want to refresh you on them. The first, comfort is the drug we've been taking to accept the reality that surrounds us. I think it's important to understand how addicting our comfort zones have become. Number two, instead of our personalities creating our personalized view of reality, it is now our perception of reality that is molding our personalities. Instead of our reality being mental, our perspective being controlled within, it's our perspective being controlled by everything that is outside of us. And finally, three, we have confused the limitations of our potential with that of our beliefs. I think it's very, very important to note that our human potential is far greater than we even understand right now. So I want you to remember those three. Today, we're going to talk about the absolute most important thing about the human experience, all we have, the endless, eternal, present, now moment. So let's start it off with a quote. Living in the moment isn't some lofty ideal reserved for the Zen and enlightened. It's the only way to live life that isn't infiltrated by illusion. Brianna Wiest. The illusion being anything other than what we're experiencing right now. Now, we've learned that we can't change the past. But the past, present, and future are all happening on a simultaneous timeline in the present moment. Our perception is the reality. And as we've learned, regardless of whether we want to change the past or not, 50% of it changes for us. Our memory isn't even accurate. The past shifts anyway. Now, you may not be able to change the actual events that occurred, sure, but you can certainly change how it affects you in the present moment. So when we assign this new meaning to a past event, that is changing the past, even if it's just for you. Especially if it's just for you, because your perspective is the only thing that matters. I was thinking about it the other day. It was, even when somebody judges you, it's still your perception of how they're perceiving you. Do you get that? It doesn't matter what they think because there's no possible way that you could ever see their side to the T, to an exact T. So you drive yourself crazy thinking about what somebody else thinks about you when you don't even know. You could estimate, you could guess, but you probably are picking worst case scenario, which isn't even true. Say something happened in your past that is limiting your future. Let's use a relationship for an example that may not have gone your way. Maybe your perspective was that you weren't good enough for that person. Well, through slowly beginning to shift your perspective in the present moment to an alternative timeline where actually that person just wasn't right for you or served their purpose for that point in your life. At that point, you then begin to reconstruct what happened in your past through the perspective of the ever-present now moment. Make sense? Regardless of where your thoughts are, you are here now. 5 minutes from now will still be right now. 10 years ago, right now. Do you get it? It all comes down to thought, which only happens right now. Time isn't real. It's a social construct. The past isn't real. It's a memory. And the future isn't real. It's a potential, imagination. The only thing real is right here, right now. The only time we have is right here, right now. The concept that time is anything other than right now causes people to miss their entire lives. Think about that one. We rush to get so much done, and for what? Here's a personal example of exactly what I'm talking about. I decided to go for a walk the other day. All the time in the world. I step outside and it's cold and rainy. Just enough to be an inconvenience. For the first quarter of the walk, I was speed walking. Running through whatever thoughts I was, trying to get to the end of the walk. Once I realized it, I decided to slow down at about half the speed and began to enjoy the rain, enjoy the walk, enjoy the cold. It made me realize how often we do things just to do them, with the end goal as the only thing in our minds. We do tasks without thinking about the enjoyment of the actual task itself or the present moment. We're doing shit just to do shit. Then I read this quote from the book I was reading, right after the walk. There is nowhere to arrive to. The only thing we're rushing toward is death. And that hit me. So if you're living in the lens of your past or some fantasy future life, you're not present. You're not going anywhere. You're wasting the only thing valuable to you. It also sparked a thought and perspective that we are conditioned to like so many things. For me, I stepped outside, it was cold and rainy. And at that moment, I decided to embrace the feeling and not give a fuck about what I'm supposed to be feeling like in the cold and the rain. What I've felt like in the past in the cold and the rain, right? It changed everything altogether. My perspective shifted just enough to be absolutely present in the moment and to accept it for what it is. It was a feeling of relief. Like I wasn't my past and I wasn't my future. I was present. I don't know if any of you have heard of Alan Watts, but he's all over Instagram right now. Kind of came out of nowhere. And here's a quote here. The art of living is neither carelessly drifting on the one hand, nor fearfully clinging to the past on the other. It consists of being sensitive to each moment, in regarding it as utterly new and unique, and having the mind open and wholly receptive. These quotes are endless. Like they're everywhere. We've been hearing them forever, it feels like, but I don't know, something really weird's going on lately, and I feel like this information just resonates all of a sudden. Remember I said that. The present moment is where everything happens. It's where you create. It's where you love. It's where you meditate, drive, sleep, eat. Your attention should always be at the task at hand. But the sad part of it all is that we're conditioned to be taken away from it and distracted from the moment. Our phones, social media, TVs, movies, video games. We've lost and forgotten the magical potential that the moment truly holds. This causes us to not know our true selves, conditioned to consume other people's lives, what they think, what they're doing, to be blind about the only thing that should matter. What you think, what you're doing. We truly have no idea what we're capable of, which means we don't know our true selves. I challenge you. Next time you take a bite of food or you're driving to the grocery store or maybe just before you're falling asleep, really enjoy that bite. Really take in the sun and the music as you drive. Be consciously aware of your body's feeling in that moment, both physical and emotional. The more you do this, the more attention you gain back. The more present you are in conversations and work, and the more you discover you beyond your ego, your conditioned perception of who you think you are. Do you realize how valuable that is? We're drowning ourselves in a sea of whens and nexts, of finish lines, but we forgot the bigger picture. Everything happens now. And you don't need meditation to bring you back to center. But let me tell you, that's one of the biggest benefits. Your thoughts become organized, along with the rest of your life, because you are literally training yourself to be. Period. How to not do, or not think, or not say, or not hear, or not taste, or not feel. Just simply be. And I can't wait to share more about that later in the season with regards to meditation. But your attention is so valuable. It's everything. That's why I named my podcast Observant Attention. It's the conscious observation of life itself that gives it the most power. Why allow your attention drift back to something that will never be again, or something that may just never be? And to boot, desires cloud momentary happiness anyways. Sure, it's important to have goals and what you want to accomplish, but accomplishing them is not the success. It's how much you grow, what you experience, and who you become in the process. Same goes when reliving past experiences. It's awesome to reminisce and look back on everything we've been through, but that's all memories are good for. They don't serve any purpose in our futures, especially if they're profoundly negative. You see, what we focus on becomes belief. When we don't pay attention, it almost seems imaginary. Way too often, we only see ourselves through the lens of our accomplishments because we're told to live this way. But we get caught in this for everything. We judge ourselves based on what we've already done. We base the amount of money we can make on what we've made in the past. We base the love we think we deserve based on the standard of our previous relationships. We base our self-worth on what we've accepted ourselves as in the past. Imagine, and I want you to listen to this, imagine what you'd believe your label is if your past hadn't conditioned you into that perspective. Imagine that perspective disappeared and you were able to wipe the slate clean. It's called the present moment. And I understand things condition you from the past, but in order to overcome them, you have to realize that it doesn't matter because all we have is the moment anyways. The minute I realized how much power resides in the now, I started doing things that would allow me to become the person I wanted to be in the future, while realizing that the journey I was taking to get there was exactly what I wanted right now. We're in such a shift in consciousness right now. For some reason, this dawned on me the other day, and it has been my mantra ever since. Stop taking life so seriously and be where your feet are. Stop overthinking the future or doubting yourself or fearing the unknown. Just come back to center and realize that the only thing that we have is the eternal present moment. We are human beings, not human doings. And that concludes this week on conditioned perception. Remember, we are not our past. If you want something or someone or to be something or someone, do it now. Do what you need to do now and don't allow the conditioning of what you learned to accept the wrecking ball that knocks down those desires. It's an illusion. That's all it is. And I know you feel really strongly to those beliefs, but what are they serving? What purpose are they serving you in your life? Once you understand that, once you become aware of it and realize that they're really not serving any purpose, awareness, that is the moment you begin to change. So next week, we'll start Generation Anxiety, which will be a 4-part sequence touching on 4 things. Our fear-based society, the social dilemma, which is the movie on Netflix that I want to touch on, information overload, and how we can regain all that power back. And the reason I wanted to touch on those things is because we need to be consciously aware of them in order to change them. Tech is just a tool. Let's find a way to use it rather than it using us. If you felt at all impacted by today's conversation, it would go a long way to subscribe, rate, download, whatever you need to do, because that 2-minute gesture means the world to this information. Also, been posting quite frequently on Instagram and TikTok, so if you want information real fast, then feel free to follow and interact. Remember, life is that simple. Thanks for listening and stay inspired.